Monterey Peninsula, an appealing part of Central California, has an array of sights to see, including Cannery Row. This Pacific coastline, famously painted into American literature by John Steinbeck, is for us enhanced by the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and Ferrari Racing Days. The second round of the Ferrari Challenge North America embraced this undulating racing circuit, widely anticipated by the fans and the teams. The drivers will deliver when they take to the tarmac, and at the end of the weekend, those that are victorious will have earned their accolades. Forza Ferrari. Here we are again in the sunshine in California then, Laguna Seca, anticipating race 2 for our Ferrari Challenge. Pirelli AM drivers, 30-minute race plus 1 lap for their race 2. It's the second round of the challenge for 2024. The first round, of course, was at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. Here we are in California. And up next, we go to support Formula One at the Grand Prix Montreal. Then it's Watkins Glen International ahead of Sonoma Raceway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for the Finale Mondiale at the middle part of October. So as you can see, the sun shines in California. Well, it certainly did when those images were taken, and it is shining now very brightly. So it's a relatively short track here at Laguna Seca, just 11 turns, but it carves its way through the undulation of the landscape here, just outside Monterey here in Laguna Seca, and a epic track for the drivers to really push their 296 Challenge cars to the absolute limit. There you can see the paddock and what it looks like, and when Ferrari rolls into town, it's a big event. Especially this, it's part of Ferrari Racing Days, which means we have not only got Ferrari Challenge racing to enjoy, which will bring you that Pirelli race next, but we've also had the XX programs and the F1 Clienti and the Club Competizione GT cars as well. Track temperature is 24 degrees, air temperature 17, humidity of 58%, wind around 18 kilometers per hour. There is a bit of a breeze blowing, and Tony Verlander alongside me here. This track it's remarkable, it's iconic, it delivers. For the drivers, it's difficult.
It is difficult. It's difficult to get the racing lines right. How much pressure, the brake pressure, do you use in the entering of the corners? The track requires a good flow. You need to find a good rhythm, but at the same time, the race car underneath you need to have the grip, needs to have the confidence level high, and qualifying. We mentioned already a few times that the importance of qualifying is very high. We have 30-minute races, and the overtaking is not easy. You need to really break deep, and almost with the risk of a little bit of contact when you are looking for those overtaking opportunities. So overall is a driver's track, and of course the corkscrew. Everybody knows the name of that corner, the elevation change. And some blind corners, meaning that when you are approaching the corner, you don't see the apex. That happens at turn 6. Sometimes driver overshoot the corner or even have issues in the entrance because you cannot really see where you're at. And if you lack the concentration a little bit, you will overshoot the corner.
Ambassadorial role of Tony Verlander here, top racing driver as well. And it's not only myself and Tony, but also Shay Adam that part of our broadcast team. Good afternoon, Shay. Is the temperature livening up just a little bit?
Good afternoon, Dave. I wish it were. It's still a little bit chilly. The wind is the big change down here because it's still biting. So it doesn't matter that the sun is out, the pleasant ambient temperature isn't bad. It's when that wind blows that it really just cuts through, no matter how many layers of Ferrari clothing you happen to be wearing. But we've got a full grid. We talked about qualifying and how important it is. One guy who didn't perhaps get the best run of qualifying in either of the sessions this weekend, Dylan Medler, he'll be starting in the 4th position. He's familiar with starting there, though. He started on the 2nd row yesterday for the race 2, wound up in the 2nd position. He's still fighting for this season-long championship. Didn't exactly get everything he wanted out of qualifying. We'll see what he can do in the race a little bit later on. But he was kind enough to give us a full rundown of the 11 turns, 2.238 miles that make up Laguna Seca.
Hi guys, I'm Dylan Medler, driver number 15 of the collection Ferrari 296 Challenge car, and I'm going to take you on a lap around Laguna Seca. So here we are on the front straight of Laguna Seca. We're hitting 6th gear here, so we're going to line up on the right hand side of the track to get a good brake marker and hit the double apex into turn 2. We're going to be looking ahead, get the throttle, and now line up for turn 3 on the left-hand side, hit the brakes. We're going to hit the apex, try to get a good exit here. So now we're going to turn 4, which is a pretty fast corner, pretty tricky. You got to hit it right. And now we're on the straight back to turn 5. So you look at the bridge now, and our brake marker is past the bridge. You go down 1 gear and feel the compression here, and use all the track on the exit, even though it falls away. You got to hit it perfectly. And now for turn 6, you look at the bridge, brake right after that. Turn 6 is a lot of compression, as you can see. You can carry a lot of speed through there. So now we're lining up for one of my favorite corners, the corkscrew. Use all the curbing to get a straight line braking. And here we go, down to 2nd gear. Here you feel your stomach drop, you go down and then on again. So now turn 9, it's a pretty interesting corner. It's a sweeper, so you're feathering the throttle the entire time. And now we're lining up turn 10, which is pretty similar. Carry as much speed as possible. So then now you're lining up for turn 11. You want to get a good exit for the straight. Here you are, use all the track on the exit, and then you're going up the gears all the way up to 6th gear. And that is a lap around Laguna Seca.
Thanks so much, Dylan Medler, then taking us for a high-speed lap around the Laguna Seca Raceway here as part of Ferrari Racing Days. Tony, with a track that's difficult to master like Laguna Seca, does it make the reward even greater when you take a win here because you know you've really earned it?
It sure does. There is 2 things. One is qualifying and showing the pure performance, and the other thing is to master in the race. There's other factors in play at the races. There's the tire degradation. It used to be higher. It used to be worse when the track had the old tarmac on it. They resurfaced it a year ago, and now it's a bit there's an improvement on lap times, but also on the tire degradation. But still, you need to hit those right racing lines each lap, each corner. It's a track that doesn't forgive a lot. So if you drop a wheel outside the curb, most likely you end up spinning. You go on the gravel, on the sand, and those areas, turn 6 when you are heading towards the corkscrew, those areas are one of the best in the world. Hard braking zone and the elevation change. Suddenly the track drops underneath the car, and you really go downhill. And to master those areas, even to be able to overtake there in race. Let me say, Dave, I once overtook your Bergmeister going into corkscrew, so I would not recommend to do that. So, but what a great track.
Do you feel, I mean, it's, you know, the corkscrew is one of those iconic corners, isn't it? It's a bit like Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch, which I have driven around. And, you know, you feel your stomach actually lurching as you go down that. And Dylan said that in his onboard lap.
Yeah, that is true. And also the racing in different categories. There's been some race deciding moments going into corkscrew. This weekend we haven't seen a real overtaking opportunities there, but there's been an IndyCar racing decisive move with Zanardi, Herta at the time, and some nice moves at the time of American Le Mans Series, and later on IMSA. So this is a track that is a driver's track, but there's also great history, great overtaking opportunities and race deciding maneuvers done.
Thank you, Tony Verlander. Of course, the Ferrari Challenge sometimes is a family affair, and that's certainly the case with David Musial and son David Musial 2.0. And I know Shea Adam has something to tell us.
Well, you said it's a driver's track, Tony. It's a bit of a museal's track because the last time that we ran here in Ferrari Challenge was 2020. In the first race, one of the museals was victorious, the other finished second. In the second race, one of the museals was victorious and the other finished second. Now they're in the same race, different categories. But once again, yesterday, Dave Musial Sr. finishing second in Trofeo Pirelli Am. We have Junior 2.0 starting on the pole position today. We're looking for a double Dave victory. You think that's possible? Triple Dave?
Bring in all the Daves way, don't you? Well, I have to say, I spoke to them earlier on, and they were, of course, delighted with performance. And Dad really encourages son. You know, David Musial, we can see here, a fine racing driver in his own right, but he says that his focus really is on what his son is doing. I'm not sure I actually take that on board because David is still hugely competitive when he's out there on track. But of course, 2.0, the son, who did a great job today, bringing that pole position in right at the end of the session, Tony. And just when we thought the session was done and dusted and we knew that our provisional pole sitter, actually, Junior put in a fantastic lap, proving that sometimes if you hold it off to the very last moment in the qualifying session, you can bank your pole position. And, of course, critically, the additional point that attracts.
Yeah, that is right. There was two drivers on track that kept on going until the end of the session. There was Matías Pérez Compag, who ended up having the Pirelli Am pole position, and also Musial Jr., who kept it very interesting until the end of that 20-minute session. And it was almost a bit surprising to see those improvements just in the later part of that session. Also, I was thinking Coda, and here is interesting to see how the performance varies between the drivers and teams. Two completely different tracks. So the drivers we saw dominating or having a good run at Coda, maybe suddenly here they are in a bit more trouble, and new drivers are getting those pole positions. So this is very interesting also for the championship.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tony. Throughout the grid, it's littered with talent. Taking P3 in Pirelli Am yesterday and actually qualifying P3 today is Tony Davis.
I'll tell you what, my first impressions of Laguna Seca were wow. It truly is an iconic track, an extraordinary track. You hear so much about it, and that it really tests the driver as an old school American track, so it's very, very exciting to be here. You know, it's just incredible to be part of the Ferrari racing days. We've got friends and family now who come from all over the country to all the races. They've heard so much about it. They love coming here, and this one's really special. We've got F1 cars here, you've got all the special Ferrari cars here, and we've got a lot of friends who are super excited to be part of this race weekend. So I love the 296 Challenge car. The 488 was great to drive, but this is such an incredible upgrade from the handling. The power is a huge difference. The car almost telegraphs to you what it's going to do, so much easier to handle and control. Really love everything about this car. So in the second round of Laguna, this is the first time I've been on track. I haven't been to any test days here, so pretty excited, working really hard the next couple days, and things come together. Hopefully there'll be some champagne on the podium and put it all together on the weekend.
Thank you so much, Tony Davis. Then you can see final stages of preparation before the reconnaissance laps are about to get underway for the Tony Davis car, and indeed for all the other cars too that make up our grid of Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. Making it easy for you to identify. The Pirelli drivers have the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the Am drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Some 9 of those drivers are Pirelli drivers. And there you can see the cars in the pit lane ready to get out there. And, of course, before we can get any racing underway, we need some very special words, and they will be delivered by Shay down there in the pit lane.
Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
Well done. Never gets it wrong. That's why it's given to Shay to do rather than you or me, Tony, because I would make a mistake, I'm sure. There we can see the number 87 car of Jeremy Clark. Now, Jeremy Clark was pole position for some time provisionally during qualifying, but was usurped by David Musial Jr., the Ferrari of Lake Forest driver. The only question I want to pose, Tony, is 2.0 ran pretty much the entire qualifying session. Those that conserved their rubber and banked whatever position they'd got, are they going to be in a better position when it comes to the race end?
In my opinion, it's all down to the track position. If Clark is able to overtake Musil at the start, he most likely has a little bit of advantage with the tires. Instead, if the order stays like this, I think Musil with the track position, even if his tires have few more laps, it won't be a deciding factor. So it's all about the start, track position, and trying to gain those places. Interesting to follow also P3 starting driver Perina, really aggressive yesterday at the start, looking for those opportunities already from the first braking zone. Dylan Medler, I was expecting a little bit more. We saw dominance at Coda in race 1 and race 2 DNF, and then yesterday P2 behind McCarthy, another driver to follow McCarthy, yesterday's winner starting from P5. So interesting grid we have for today's race.
Yes, we've got some overtaking to come from our race of 30 minutes plus 1 lap. So a number of drivers then potentially out of position with regards to their qualifying performance, which lends itself nicely to the story we want to be able to follow. Here comes the grid then in full. David Musial Jr., congratulations, P1, alongside him, Jeremy Clark. Then it's Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler, both danger men, I would suggest, from row 2 of the grid. And to P5, where we find Jason McCarthy and Joe Rubo. We know that Jason McCarthy will push from the very start of the race. It's John Bennett and Michael Petramalo that are P7 and P8, occupying the 4th row of our starting grid for Trofeo Pirelli Race 2. Martin Burrows and then the best of the AM drivers, Matias Perez Compact. They go from row 5, P9 and 10 respectively. Brian Cook, who comes here with an unbroken run of success. He starts from P11. Tony Davis is alongside him, P12. It's David Musial going from P13 with Sebastian Mascaro going from P14 to the 8th row, where we find Jay Logan and Michael Mathis. And then on row 9 of our Trofeo Pirelli grid, we find, going from P17, Frank Chang and Benoit Bergeron going from P18. The mix of Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers then for this 30-minute plus 1 lap race of Ferrari Challenge North America. We're live from Laguna Seca in the sunshine, and the cars are on their reconnaissance lap, formation lap I should say, right now. They'll grid up side by side in formation behind the Richard Mills safety car, which will peel off into the pit lane, which means it will be the responsibility of Dave Musial Jr. and Jeremy Clark to control the pace of the rolling start of Ferrari Challenge. What we'll do is we'll split the screen so that you can see the cars approach the final turn and also see them across the starting line as well. There we go. And Richard Mills safety car off into the pit lane. And now the tension and sense of anticipation begins to rise in all the drivers as they get ready to get this race 2 underway. We await the green flag to be waved, and let's go racing. So David Musial Jr. then going from P1, and all the cars getting away now as we've got this high shot. But what a blistering start from Jeremy Clark right at the start then, and also a good start from Roberto Perina. As Dylan Medler also trying to make moves around the outside here, as Jeremy Clark got that nailed absolutely perfectly right at the start of the race and finds himself in the lead as they wind their way behind the hospitality area here in Laguna Seca. And wow, what a start indeed. And it's Jeremy Clark leading from David Musial Jr. And here we can pick the cars up live right now. Roberto Perina running in P4. And right behind Roberto Perina is Jason McCarthy. I said he's going to be one to watch. He's going to want to be doing some overtaking. You will see some of the most aggressive driving stance from the likes of Jason McCarthy as he continues his quest to get further up the order then, as one car goes out into the gravel, power slides, rallycross style. Around the side of the circuit, but thankfully a big save as well. You can see there Jeremy Clark nearly losing it through the corkscrew because the tyre's not quite up to temperature yet, I guess, Tony.
Yeah, the leading 5 cars are all together. Dylan Medler was the big mover at the start. He was able to overtake Perina from outside. He was already challenging for P2 with Musial Jr. So this is a very tight battle now, and like you said, it still takes a few laps to get those tire temps up.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, and it is very, very tight at the top then as they run across the timing line and put the first lap in the book. You can see that Roberto Perina just taking a look at the inside there. Nothing doing at the moment. Dylan Medler up to P3. It's Clark from Musial Jr., from Medler, from Perina, from McCarthy in P5. It's Matthias Compact, Brian Cook, and Dave Musial, who are the top three in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class at the moment. We follow our race leader, Jeremy Clark. It was a big save from him, in my opinion, coming through the exit of the corkscrew. The back end of the car got sideways. He controlled it beautifully and kept it going. There you can see the number 38 car of Omar, that car of Michael Petramalo, and the all-white car of Michael Petramalo. There is the number 46 car of Martin Burrows, and Burrows, of course, has got the AM leader right behind him, Matthias Compact, who will be trying to get past Burrows, because that will give him the cushion of another class car in between himself and Brian Cook, who of course is chasing in P2.
Getting information from pit lane is Jeremy Clark. As he started P2 and he took the lead of the race, I think it under reviewed the start, because Musial Jr., as we know, was on pole, but I was surprised to see there was a lot of things happening, and I was following Dylan Medler's moves, and then the lead changed. So let's see what happens with the race director, if we had a valid start or if there will be some penalties.
Yes, sometimes starts are under investigation, as Jason McCarthy is dropping way down the order. I can see on our timing screen, Tony. I don't know what's happened to Jason McCarthy, but actually that's a problem with the transponder. Jason is still there. We can see the blue and the white striped car is still there, so it's a transponder issue that caused me to worry just for a moment when I looked at the timing screen. Now there is Dave Musial Jr. Yes, its start is under investigation, so we'll see what the race director has to say about it. And basically, you have to remain side by side until the green flag flies. And if Jeremy Clark anticipated the green flags coming out a little bit earlier than he should have done, well, he could be penalised for that.
Yeah, there's the risk and reward. Starting from outside is not an easy task here, so you obviously want to have a good run towards turn 2, but if you go too early on throttle, you won't be able to escape the eye of our race director and the steward. So let's see what happens.
Yes, we await news, but at the moment Jeremy Clark is trying to stretch his legs a bit. Meantime, behind, Dave Musial Jr., Dylan Medler and Roberto Perino virtually welded together here, contesting this P2 place, and Jason McCarthy's not far behind them, nor too is Joe Rubo, it should be said. So Musial Jr. then running just a little bit wide, but following in his wheel tracks, Dylan Medler there. And there you can see Clark going through and putting another lap in the book. And as they get into the next turn, you can see Dylan Medler in every wheel track of Dave Musial Jr. As you've said, track position is absolutely critical here at Laguna Seca in terms of trying to find and have that advantage of having a clear track ahead of you, because overtaking is at a premium. You've got to be so determined and almost aggressive in terms of making an overtake stick. There you can see the number 46 car of Martin Burrows, because he has been passed by Matthias Compact. So Brian Cook then, whose unbeaten run in Pirelli AM at the moment, is vulnerable, because Matthias Compact is leading in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM. Brian Cook P2, and David Musial there you can see in that brightly coloured car is running P3. So Brian Cook, he also needs to try and find his way past Martin Burrows to have any hope of getting on terms with Matthias Compact, who himself has now got Michael Petramalo in his target sights. So good to see Martin Burrows, the Ferrari of Quebec driver, of course, be heading to a home race next in the Ferrari Challenge as we go in quest of support of the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. So Dave Musial then, senior, is running behind Brian Cook at the moment. That is the fight that's going on for P2 and P3 in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Jeremy Clark leading at the moment in Trofeo Pirelli from Dave Musial Jr. and Dylan Medler. And here indeed is our race leader, Jeremy Clark, then the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver. And he's built up a margin of about a second and a third over Dave Musial 2.0. Let's get a replay of the start here, Tony, and see if we can pick the bones out of whether Jeremy Clark was too ambitious at the start. Well, it's difficult to tell from that angle.
Yeah, at least he's cutting the line way before Musial, so to having that kind of advantage, two possibilities. Musial, they did something at the start. We remember Coda, one driver had a wrong gear at the start.
Hit the rev limiter.
Hit the rev limiter, so it's difficult to judge from there, but for sure Clark had a better acceleration. Two options: he jumps the start, or the pole pole driver Musial Jr. had an issue when the green flag was thrown.
You're absolutely right. It was Cyril Chauncey in Kota who said he was on the rev limiter and he was in the wrong gear, therefore. Whether Musial made a slight error and Jeremy Clark was able to... as we've got a car into the gravel and barriers there. Is that Martin Burrows?
Yeah,
well, he's returning out onto the track. The dust has been kicked up, but Martin Burrows then dropping down the order now, Tony.
Yeah, that was between turns 9 and 10, and it's been a little bit weird weekend for Burrows. We've been seeing quite a few mistakes where other times I haven't seen that happening.
Well, there you can see getting past Joe Rubo, and now Dylan Medler. Dylan Medler getting past Dave Musial Jr. Sorry, I just had to cut away from that story that I was telling because, well, Dylan Medler with a bold and ambitious move there as he gets away, and now Roberto Perina is lining up Dave Musial 2.0 as well. So,
whoa,
goodness
McCarthy
me.
was all over the place coming out of turn 5. But I see Dylan Medler a little bit more aggressive today. I was teasing him last night and saying, like, hey, you really didn't want to win that race. You didn't give hard time to McCarthy. And now Dylan has, starting from P4, he's already up to P2. So excellent drive so far.
Absolutely. So we will see how that develops. And there is Jason McCarthy then, who always gives us entertainment. And Jason McCarthy, he'll try and get on terms with Roberto Perina, but Dylan Medler and Dave Musial Jr., they have exchanged places then. A good move from Dylan Medler. And there you can see the number 11 car of Jason McCarthy. Of course, he's racing in 2 classes this weekend. He's not only racing in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, but also racing in the 488 Challenge, which is also a part of the package here too. So, there we can see Dylan Medler is already beginning to encroach upon Jeremy Clark here.
And this is the thing with the track position. He was stuck behind Musial for several laps. And here we see the overtaking into turn 3. And a mistake from Musial Jr. running wide, turn 3, and that opens the chance for overtaking.
Well, you said to me that sometimes to make it work around here, what you need to do is provoke a mistake from the driver ahead of you. That's exactly what happened. Now, Dylan Medler was able to take advantage of that because you've got to be able to react very quickly, Tony.
Yeah, those opportunities, they come so fast that you need to be ready, and Dylan did an excellent job. And now we see the difference in pace. He's able to close that gap and is around 1.5 seconds to the leader, Clark. And let's see Dylan's lap times, how they progress from here on, and if he's able to have a fight even for the win of this race.
Here comes the pressure now from Roberto Perina on Dave Musial 2.0. Dave Musial 2.0 then currently in that P3 position, but Roberto Perina is as close can be as they continue their quest and get onto the start-finish straight again. Let's see, is Perina going to try and encourage a mistake going into the next turn? And fastest lap comes from Dylan Medler as he closes the door on Jeremy Clark, the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver. Still no news from race control with regards to that start, but this is the battle I'm really interested in because the gap evolution between Dylan Medler and Dave Musial Jr. and Roberto Perina that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the graphics there. Dave Musial Jr. is under pressure now from Roberto Perina. Perina is pushing for all he is worth. First 10 minutes of the race done and dusted already. The race being led by Jeremy Clark, who, may I tell you, his gap now is reduced to just a second between himself and the hard-charging Dylan Medler. But we focus on this battle for P3 as Perina tries to reel in Dave Musial 2.0 like he's on the end of his fishing line as they hit now and go downhill through this roller coaster here at Laguna Seca. Look how close he gets, Tony, getting almost a draft off the back of the Musial car.
I've been impressed the way the drivers are able to throw these 296 challenge cars so close to each other, and yet there is space and no contact. So going through corkscrew with that distance is quite impressive.
Right, so another lap. It's quite a short lap here, just 2.2 miles. And now Roberto Perina tracking Dave Musial 2.0 for all he is worth, carrying all the speed you go, run downhill into this turn. And Musial just places the car absolutely perfectly on the entry to the turn, that double apex turn. And that prevents any opportunity for Roberto Perina to be able to take advantage. The AM drivers, Matthias Compact is leading. He's got Jason McCarthy and Michael Petromalo between himself, Brian Cook and Dave Musial. They are the P1, 2 and 3 in the Trofeo Pirelli AM race. So Jeremy Clark then, whose gap is down to just a second as Dylan Medler continues to push hard. And Dylan Medler about 0.3 a lap quicker at the moment as he tries to narrow that gap. And you can see him physically getting much, much closer now. So here's Matthias Perez Compact then, who in front of him has got the John Bennett car. Now, it's not in the same class, same category, but if Matthias Compact can get past John Bennett, he's certainly going to try and do so. Jason McCarthy then, from his early promise, Tony, seems to have dropped down the order, doesn't he? He's running P7 in class, but actually that's P8 in the race overall.
Yeah, something must have happened. I saw the car was quite wild. He was struggling with the grip for a long time. He was around in overall ranking P6, P5, P6, but now he dropped down a few places. I think Bennett and Compact were able to overtake him, so there must have been a mistake by Jason McCarthy.
Right, once again, Perina is as close can be to Dave Musial Jr. And he is trying to do everything he can to encourage a mistake, but that mistake is just not coming. Great driving from Musial 2.0 then, who's holding his own in that provisional P3 place at the moment. And Roberto Perina is certainly keeping him keen, the Ferrari of Seattle driver pushing for all he's worth. Meantime, Tony Davis now is really beginning to push Dave Musial 2.0's father, David Musial there. You can see in the number 30 car, who's currently running P3 in Trofeo Pirelli AM. There's Brian Cook, who's second. Of course, it's Matthias Compact that he's leading in Pirelli AM. Brian Cook running P2. Then it's Musial, Davis, Mathis, Mascaro, Chang, Logan, Bergeron, Porsche and Kaminsky. That's the way it looks. There is Brian Cook. I remind you, comes here into race 2, unbeaten in the 2024 season so far. And he would love to be able to maintain that unbeaten run. But for the moment, whoa, as that car goes very, very sideways there. And that car having gone around, wow, Michael Petromalo in the number 38 car gets it going again and pointing in the right direction, but having lost a huge number of positions. I mean, he's running P8 in Trofeo Pirelli. What went wrong here?
Yeah, just on top of the corkscrew, you have very low gear, so the throttle response and the revs on the engine, the reply is very sharp, so he just gave too much throttle in that change of direction, left, right, at the top of the corkscrew, and he lost the control of the car. Probably a very low setting of traction control as well.
Okay.
Some of the drivers, like we heard Jason McCarthy saying yesterday, that he even runs TC0. So that must have caused the issue there on top of corkscrew.
Thank you, Tony. So this quest for P3 in Trofeo Pirelli continues. This battle that is going on between Dave Musial Jr. and Roberto Perina. They are contesting this P3 place, and at the moment, with just about half race duration done now, Musial has not made an error, and that has prevented Roberto Perina from coming through. But he's just out of the corkscrew, where he is really able to almost get on the gearbox of the Musial car ahead of him.
Yeah, some of the drivers are struggling clearly in some of the areas of track. We've seen some slow speed stuff, and it looks like Perina has a better run through corkscrew and downhill turn 9. He's really closing the gap that is creating on some other parts of the track, and the pace from Musial and Perina is maybe opening a chance for Rubo as well to close down to these two drivers. Sorry.
Very good point you're making there, because it's not going to be many more laps before Joe Rubo is going to be on the back of them. You can see him coming into the shot now. You could also see John Bennett and also Matthias Compact, of course, the leader in Trofeo Pirelli AM at the moment. So Joe Rubo then, he wants to join in this little party. An invitation has not been sent to him. However, he's going to try and gate crash into this potential P3 battle that is going on, and continues to go on and has done for a number of laps. And Roberto Perina has taken different lines wherever he can to try and what he's doing is presumably trying to fill 2.0's rear view screen with his car, so that Musial cannot rest for even a millisecond, because he knows he's going to be ready to bite. And here we go. This is where they get the closest. It's through the corkscrew, and he gets a brilliant run out of the corkscrew, but you're not able to take advantage of that necessarily. What he needs is for 2.0 just to drop a wheel into the sandy, gravelly area, and that would be enough for him, I feel sure, to be through. But to be fair to David Musial Jr., he's doing a great job in defending here, and you can see that Joe Rubo is nearly on them. Good call, Tony, because yes, he's been just quietly going about his business and getting closer.
In the lead of the race, the hard-charging Dylan Medler in P2 maybe has taken a little bit too much from his tires, because Jeremy Clark is now reopened the gap almost to 1.3 seconds. It was down to 0.8, so Dylan was really trying to catch the leader of the race, but I think he took a little bit too hard for his tires and maybe losing some grip at this stage of the race.
Fair point, well made. Let's see how that develops during the rest of this race. We've got 12.5 minutes plus a lap still to do in this Trofeo Pirelli race that you're enjoying from Laguna Seca here. It is Ferrari Challenge and our second race weekend of 2024 here in California. We opened the campaign in Texas at the Circuit of the Americas, and here we are in California enjoying two races from Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. The first race was yesterday, and today's second race then underway, with Jeremy Clark leading now by 1.2 seconds over Dylan Medler before we get to this battle, which is going on for P3, with Dave Musial Jr. for Ferrari of Lake Forest holding on to that P3 position at the moment, despite enormous pressure that has been piled on him by Roberto Perina, the Ferrari of Seattle driver. But he's not been able to provoke a mistake from 2.0. He positions his car perfectly in the middle of the circuit there to deny any opportunity to Roberto Perina, although I have to say, I don't think Perina is as close to him now as he has been on previous laps.
Yeah, just so hard braking from Musial Jr. for turn 2. Just on the limit of the ABS, there was some black marks left on the surface of the track from the tire, just being on the edge of not locking the front left tire. And those two drivers have been really aggressive the whole race, using the track on the exit curbs and really hard driving the whole race, Musial Jr. and Perina. And it's not easy for P3 driver Musial Jr. when you have a driver who is really putting the pressure on you all the time. You said that on this track you cannot really breathe, you cannot really take a break, and he's having a race where he needs to be on it the whole 30 minutes.
Well, you can see Compact then trying to reel in right now the John Bennett car. A big mention to Michael Mathis, who's made good progress in the race, and he's running P5 in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. And you're the one that picked up on the fact that Joe Rubo was going to be on this battle very, very soon. He's almost there now. So it's going to be a three-way fight for P3 that will be going on for the 10 minutes plus one lap that remains in this race. And I just wonder, Tony, and Dave Musial running very nearly the entire qualifying session as we get into the final third of this race, whether his car will just be more difficult to keep within the white lines, and whether that will play potentially into the hands of Roberto Perina, because the grip is going to drop away a little bit.
Yeah, it has an effect. Every lap, every extra lap you had to do in qualifying has an effect now towards the last part of the race. And like you said, these last 10 minutes, these are the critical minutes where you really feel the tires dropping a bit and you lose some performance. This track used to be super hard on tires. There's a little improvement with the new surface, but still the same characteristics of Laguna Seca, being an aggressive track for tires.
Tony Davis then, who we heard from earlier on in the program, has made his way past David Musial, the Ferrari of Lake Forest driver. So Tony Davis now in a podium place, P3. And let's take a look at how he did it. Here it is. And there you go. You've said this all along, Tony. You've got to be so accurate here, because the moment you go just a centimetre too wide, that is going to hurt you.
Yeah, it is true. So there, Musial the senior just ran wide. He felt from the entry that the car was sliding more towards the right-hand side of the track, and if he had kept the speed, he would have gone off the track. He had to back off, and then he had a really poor run up the hill towards Corkscrew, and Tony Davis was able to overtake him.
Right, now I think, and what do I know, Roberto Perina has rested for a couple of laps, and now he's re-energizing his charge on Dave Musial 2.0. So let's see, and that might have been brought about by virtue of the fact that now in the rear view screen of Roberto Perina's car is of course Joe Rubo, so he's thinking, oh, I've got to get about this now because I've not got any safety behind me anymore. And even my poor P4 position could be under threat. So here you can see he's closer than he has ever been. He goes to the outside of Dave Musial Jr. You're certainly not going to get the undercut here going into the corkscrew. But again, he's back to where he was in terms of welding the front of his car to the back of the Musial Jr. car. And continuing to run down. You run downhill in this section, carries so much speed. Take as much curb as possible. Musial Jr. just pulls away a little bit, but I rather think that Roberto Perina is going to come again and again, trying to just find a way past Dave Musial Jr. as they head across the start-finish line and into the kink, which is turn number 1 for double apex turn 2. There is Perina taking a wide line and carrying as much momentum as possible.
He had a little mistake there in the middle of turn 2, and this Musial Jr. was able to open a little gap, and now Rubo is just behind Perina.
Yes, and this is what I thought might happen when you get into a position where you're the meat in the sandwich, if you will, hunting but being hunted at the same time, which is certainly the case now for Roberto Perina. He has got Joe Rubo, and this will be well, handy for Dave Musial 2.0, who will be able to breathe a sigh of relief just for a moment or so. The more he can do to encourage Joe Rubo to take the fight to Roberto Perina, it means, of course, that he can secure that P3 position. How's it going to end up? Well, in 6.5 minutes' time, plus a lap, we will know. In the meantime, Matthias Kompack and Brian Cook and Tony Davis are the 1, 2, 3 in the Pirelli AM drivers.
Perina got a little bit more aggressive after the mistake he did, so on this lap he's been able to close down the gap to Musial Jr. And I think Perina's mistake is a perfect example of Laguna Seca. Trying to get that different line and going outside the racing line in Laguna Seca, it doesn't work. You need to keep it tight through turn 2. That's where the grip is. Even if you want to move to the right hand side and have a better rotation, better exit, it really doesn't work. And now you see Perina, he's back with the tight line again.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You called that so well. And Joe Rubo is now just coming under a bit of pressure from John Bennett. So all of a sudden, this becomes a four-way fight for that P3 place. And I'll tell you who's lurking behind. The white strip across the top of the windscreen reveals our Trofeo Pirelli AM race leader, Matthias Kompack, who's right up there with them now.
Matthias has had a good run. I think he needs to, and he realizes the difference in category right now. So I think the most important thing for the young driver is just to bring it to the checker flag and get that win. So another boost of confidence.
Absolutely. The Ferrari of Central Florida driver then needs not overtake those cars that are in front of him. Oh, there was a little mistake there from Dave Musial Jr. just going into the corkscrew, and that has allowed Perina to get ever closer, and you can see. But that's just not an advantageous place to be able to take advantage of a mistake, is it?
Is this the race that we're going to see a real overtaking maneuver to corkscrew? We mentioned it before the race, and let's see if it happens in this race too.
Well, it might. So, fair play to Roberto Perina, who really has maintained the pressure. And I have to say, it's been soaked up like a sponge from Dave Musial 2.0, who genuinely has driven a brilliant race in terms of holding on to that P3 position. This is our race leader. Sorry, we've not seen much of him, but Jeremy Clark is now 1.9 seconds to the good for Ferrari Beverly Hills. There's Dylan Medler, and Dylan Medler is he has been quicker, but it's all very well being as quick, or indeed quicker than the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by, and at the moment Dylan Medler is nowhere near close enough, as Dylan Medler sets the fastest lap of a 1:23.520. So he's clearly got tyre longevity, but he's got a big gap of 2 seconds, and with only 3 3/4 minutes left plus a lap, it's all coming a bit too late, I would suggest, for Dylan Medler.
Yeah, but I would say excellent execution on tyres and the racecraft from Jeremy Clark. So he led Dylan Medler to charge, really come hard and close the gap until 0.8 seconds, and now he's got back to the rhythm and he kept the consistency and over the race distance of almost 30 minutes. Then Jeremy Clark has showed that he has more consistency.
Yes.
And also he did his fastest lap, which is just shy of 3/10 from Dylan Medler's lap time. So both drivers, very well executed race. But having said that, Jeremy Clark really managed well the tires.
Right. Let's go back to this four-way fight for P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. And it is Dave Musial Jr., Roberto Perina, Joe Rubo, and now John Bennett, who is really on the back of Joe Rubo. So for these drivers then, concentration is absolutely critical as they continue to the checkered flag. We've got 2.5 minutes plus a lap to be done. And I have to say, despite valiant efforts from Roberto Perina, so impressed with Junior's driving. He's been able to defend that spot, and what has happened is Roberto Perina has maintained a charge for some laps, then he's eased up, and then he's gone again, and he's going again right now through the corkscrew. That's how close he gets. You can almost see the back end of the car sliding as he's trying to carry so much speed downhill. But Dave Musial Jr. is just ticking the boxes of where he needs to point the car.
I'm putting my money on the attempt on corkscrew. There will be an overtaking maneuver. It was so close again. What Perina needs to do is have a really good run through turn 6. This is difficult because it's a corner where you don't see the apex.
Yes.
And plus he has a car in front of him very close. So he needs to take a little bit of risk and really go early on throttle at the face when you are still turning into the corner, and that would give him a chance to go with a little bit more speed up the hill and challenge for the P3 going into corkscrew.
Tony, he's only probably going to get another 2 opportunities at corkscrew. So let's see, is it going to be this time that Tony Volander's prediction is going to come true? Dave Musial Jr. then, currently in that P3. Roberto Perina is doing the chasing. Is he going to line him up right now? Let's see as they begin the charge up the hills then. And let's see if he's able to do that. So I don't think he's quite close enough, Tony.
No, there's still a bit too much gap. You just need a mistake again from the other driver. It's not
Certainly
close enough. Yeah, there's a car and a half distance between the drivers, a bit too much.
Oh, but I can see exactly what you're saying. And yes, he just needs to be a bit closer. And there on exit, he looks at the inside line of Dave Musial Jr., but Jr. closes the door.
But you see again, there's a lot of grip inside going through that corner. It's a high-speed corner, and he did it very tight, and he lost almost nothing there. So the racing lines here in Laguna Seca are very different to many other tracks. So the grip is inside, like I said.
Well, the flag is flying, which means there is just one more lap to do. So it's now or never for Roberto Perina. Tony's money is on the fact that he's going to try it in corkscrew. I don't know whether he's going to get that opportunity, because all of a sudden he really has got Joe Rubo and John Bennett breathing down his gearbox now. So these 4 cars are all together and they're all fighting over this provisional P3 place. We're on the final lap.
Yeah, a few mistakes from Perina. The rear opened again in turn 2. He touched the inside curb in turn 3. So Musial is actually more far away than he was on a previous lap, so it takes a little miracle through 5 and 6 to see Perina, but he's closed up again.
He has closed up again. Let's see as Roberto Perina then makes the way uphill. Come on, Tony, your prediction, is it going to be right? This could be happening here. We're live with Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. Here comes Perina taking a look at the inside line. Wasn't quite close enough, Tony.
Yeah, lost again. I lost again.
Meantime, ready to take the checkered flag, the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver Jeremy Clark then. An outstanding drive right from the start of the race. 2.5 seconds to the good over Dylan Medler. He takes victory in Trofeo Pirelli. This has been a drive and a half from all of these drivers as now they get virtually welded together. And who's it going to be for P3? It's a drag race to the line, and Dave Musial Jr. takes it. And I have to say, richly deserved, because he held on to that. Roberto Perina threw everything at it bar the kitchen sink in terms of trying to find a way by, but he was denied. Congratulations to Matthias Kompank for taking the win in Trofeo Pirelli Am ahead of Brian Cook and Dave Musial. So look at that. Both Musials taking P3 in their respective categories. So well done to Matias Perez Compact. Wow, that really was a race that maintained its liveliness from start to finish, Tony.
Yeah, this was beautiful race. There was respect between the drivers, but hard racing. Dylan Medler, race 1, P2, race 2, also P2, so good points for him after the DNF in the race 2 in Coda. Great first win for Matias Compact, and master driving from Jeremy Clark. He didn't losing concentration on a charging Dylan Medler who was closing the distance, and then actually later part of the race Clark had more pace, so great driving and great race. These are the driving standards that I really like.
Yeah, you're right, and you should salute those because very close racing, but whilst it was fraught, it was perfectly fair, and that was really good to see. So, confirmation of the result then, Jeremy Clark taking the win from Dylan Medler and David Musial Jr. They are the top 3 ahead of Roberto Perina, Joe Rubo and John Bennett. Matias Perez Compact, P7 overall, but of course P1 in class ahead of Jason McCarthy. Then it's Brian Cook, whose unbroken run of success comes to an end with P2 in class, P9 overall, ahead of David Musial taking a podium, Tony Davis, then Michael Mathis, Sebastian Mascaro, Frank Chang and Jay Logan. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Tony Davis get by David Musial at one point in the race? And obviously Musial got that place back, so well done to him. Michael Petramalo finishes P16, then it was Martin Burrows and Benoit Bergeron, John Horsch and Brian Kaminsky didn't start. So there we are. I mean, to be fair, there was so much going on, we couldn't be across everything.
Yeah, the fight for that P3 position, actually the gap between the third Musial Jr. and the leading 2 drivers got really big. It's almost 16.5 seconds. The fight and the defending between Musial and Perina cost them a lot of lap time, but that was great battle.
Right, let's take a look. Wow, that was how he did it. Oh, that was a big save from Tony Davis.
Whoa, and that was last lap in the last corner. So
wow,
that was That was impressive.
So there, congratulations being afforded to Jeremy Clark down there. Goodness me, what a race, what a race. So Roberto Amorosi there, congratulating Jeremy Clark, whose hands device and crash helmet comes off. The hair looks relatively unsettled, and as it would after 30 minutes plus 1 lap of hard charging racing. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Jeremy Clark, the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver, congratulated by Matt Dusenbury as well. And there is the head of Pirelli and Ferrari Challenge, Pirelli Motorsport, offering his congratulations too. So great job done by Jeremy Clark. And Shay will be getting hold of him just as quickly as she can, and even quicker than that because she's already done it. You're with the winner, Shay.
Well, your ask is my demand to come, Dave. Well, Jeremy, you decided to come back to the championship, and it only took you till race 2 to win the race. What's it like to be a winner here at Laguna?
Oh, it feels really good to win again. I think, I had a struggle last year, came back for a couple races and just couldn't put it together, but really glad I could put it together today. What's it like to race the 296? It's an amazing car. I mean, it's a big step up from the 488, and I really enjoyed driving it this weekend.
Congratulations, job well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Jeremy Clark. Had some good fun with him in the Winter Series a couple of years ago in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and great fun to be with, and great racing driver as well, no question. So in the Drivers' Championship then, Dylan Medler leading, but only 2 points ahead of Roberto Perina now. Points make prizes. Then it's Jason McCarthy then, P3, David Musial Jr. P4, then Joe Rubo, John Bennett, Martin Burrows and Jeremy Clark. That's the way the Drivers' Championship looked from P1 to 8, and then it's Christian Portoliccio, Michael Petramalo and Brett Curtis occupying positions P9, 10 and 11 in the Trofeo Pirelli Drivers' Championship. Consistency is key with regards to banking those points, Tony.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. We have the leading drivers. They all had more or less in the first 4 races of the season 1 race off where they didn't perform so well. So that shows that the consistency. Obviously, we are here announcing for the winners and the podiums, but that P4 and P5, some of the races, that might be the deciding factor. And in the end, Perina's performance, securing that P4, is really important. If he had a moment where he lost the control a bit and trying to charge for that P3 and under DNF, that would have been really costly. Instead, he's now in the championship fight with Dylan Medler and other drivers, so consistency is the key in this championship.
Ferrari of Central Florida driver Matias Perez Compact, victorious in Trofeo Pirelli Am, and is with Shay now.
Matias, what's it like to be a race winner in this series?
I'm glad. Yeah, just really so happy I could finally win after all the bad luck I had. So just happy.
Do you feel like it was the perfect race?
I think it was a really good race. I could, right from the start, get some Pirelli guys to cushion me from behind. So then I managed the tires and won comfortably.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So well done to Matias Compact then, taking the win in Trofeo Pirelli Am. We'll take a look at the Pirelli Am Championship points momentarily, and well, as if by magic, there they are. Brian Cook still leading on 143 points. A good margin over David Musial, P2, then it's Tony Davis, P3. Ahead of Sebastian Mascaro, Matias Perez Compact, who's creeping up the order now. Michael Mathis, Frank Chang, and John Horsch, they occupy the top 8 places in the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship. And as we get to the second page of the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship, we see Benoit Bergeron, Jay Logan, Christopher Cagnazzi, Brian Kaminsky, Brad Falva, Brandon Cruz, Ben Gudensky. Then they occupy the positions P9 through 15. Every single point very, very valuable for those drivers. From Tony, from myself, and from Shay Adam, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.